The most annoying thing about liberals in general and the press in particular is the double standard. No, it's not even a double standard. It's no standard at all. I mean, did you guys, any of you guys, I'm sure all of you guys, a lot of you saw the story coming out of, was it Wyoming? The congressman body slammed a reporter, and for the next 24 hours, literally nonstop on a couple of cable channels, it was all about how this big bad Republican is unfit for office. And of course, the person who was really responsible was Donald Trump. That just went on and on and on. And so, okay, my attitude is, okay, if that's the standard, that, if you put your hands on somebody, you're not allowed to be in public office. That might not be a standard I agree with that much, but hey, it's a standard. I'm not the one setting the standards, I'm just the one observing them. And so on and on they went, but every single person who talked about this Republican is now unfit for office because he put his hands on a reporter. What about Al Franken? Al Franken body slammed a guy at a John Dean rally. What about this congressman from North Carolina, this Democrat? Remember this?
Hi, Congressman. How are you? Do you fully support the Obama agenda?
Who are you? Who are you? Whoa, who are you? Who are you? I'm here for a project, sir. Tell me who you are.
We're just here for a project, sir.
Tell me who you are.
We're just here for a project.
I don't care about what you tell my name. Tell me who you are.
I'm just a student, sir.
From...
We're just students. That's all we
I
are.
have a right to know who you are.
All we are is students.
So am I. Who are you? Who are you?
Please let go of my arm.
Sir.
Who are you?
Sir, please.
Congressman,
Sir.
please let go of me.
Who are you?
Okay.
Who are you?
No, nobody remembers it because nobody made a big deal about it when it happened. That's assault and battery, what that guy did, what that congressman did. Was it a big deal? I mean, in the real world, not really. In a courtroom, oh yeah, you're not allowed to put your hands on a woman or a young student. But that's what we saw there. Nobody really cared that much about either one of those examples. Let's flash forward to Baltimore for another example of this, of what somebody called double standards. I'll say zero standards. A couple days ago, some white idiot killed a young black guy who was in college, had a military thing going on. Seemed like he had his act together. The white kid seemed like he was a nut job. He killed him. Details aren't really all that important. But what happened next is again another explosion of the zero standard. People all over the country were saying, oh, that's a hate crime. This white kid committed a hate crime. And so here's what's happening in the press right now. I mean, what's the cliche about the news? Dog bites man, that's not a story. Man bites dog, that's a story. So this is a man bites dog story. Okay, fair enough. But what the press has taken it to a whole new level, because it's not just man bites dog anymore. It's man bites dog way more than dog bites man. That's what this column from the Baltimore Sun says, which stands out as the most idiotic column I've ever read in any major American newspaper. Let me just blow through a couple of paragraphs of it. Give you some of the flavor. This is by some guy named Daniel Roderick at the major daily newspaper in Baltimore, Maryland. Quote, there were moments when someone would say something ugly, a racial epithet, an ethnic slur, and we would all shake our heads in disgust, and someone would offer, in a way consoling, these words of advice and promise. Well, wait till the old bigots die off. It's going to take time, but it gets better with each generation. And he just goes on, that's the Oprah construction, right? Let the old white people just have to die. Anyway, so he kind of, I'm not even going to read more of this. He just goes on and on and on, basically saying he and all of his friends have this, morally superior, racial bias-free outlook. And anybody who disagrees with them on affirmative action is a big fat white racist that has to die. And he goes, no, this is passed down genetically through generations. And he gave the example of this black kid who was just killed by this idiot white kid. Baltimore's too easy. I mean, this is, and so he's trying to make it sound. No, he does say that all this white racism is resulting in all these black people being attacked and beaten and killed and robbed and all this stuff. And it's like, no, that's the greatest lie of our generation. The truth is the opposite. You don't have to go very far to see. Why don't we just look at two cases in Baltimore, both of which were in the news since this story of the crazy white idiot killing the black kid. Well, the worst one of all is the story at a Baltimore daycare center, where a black woman tortured a 8-month-old white baby. That baby's dead. This was one of those cases. This is Baltimore. This is one of those cases in Baltimore where the chief of investigations was getting up there going, "Hey, this is like the worst thing I've ever seen." Why don't we run through just a couple of minutes of his statement? He's going to describe what he saw. I'll put the perp's picture up there so you can look at the face of evil.
You heard. So on May 23rd at approximately 3:19 p.m., we received a call for a non-breather at 1 South High Street, which is a business, Rocketeer Learning Center. Officer arrived on the scene with medics and discovered an infant baby girl who was later identified as Reese Bowman, who was in medical distress and not breathing at the time. Medics immediately started performing CPR on the baby, and she was immediately transported to the University of Maryland Hospital Pediatrics Emergency. Despite all efforts, the baby was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at the hospital. At that particular time at the hospital, there was no obvious signs of trauma or injuries that were visible to this child at that time. As a matter of routine, as in all baby cases, the baby case deaths, the homicide unit was notified to conduct an initial investigation into the death of Reese Bowman. Investigators first spoke with the caretaker, who discovered the child not breathing, who later turned out to be the suspect, Miss Lee Walding. She was told investigators at that time that she fed the baby, wrapped the baby in a blanket, and placed her in a crib for a nap. When she returned to check on the baby approximately 45 minutes later, she observed the baby not breathing, and she notified co-workers and notified 911. During the initial investigation, it was learned that this particular learning center was equipped with video cameras in several rooms throughout the facility. Investigators combed through several videos looking for any indication as to how Reese Bowman died. We were alerted the next day, which was yesterday, by the owner of the facility that they had discovered some disturbing video. That footage would show a totally different story than that was being told by Miss Walden, who was the suspect. It totally contradicted everything that she initially told investigators. I watched the video myself, and watching that video, I can tell you it is disturbing, very disturbing. You can see from that video for a period of time, Reese Bowman, in my opinion, was tortured. The video would show Miss Walding covering the baby with excessive blankets for long periods of time, which fully covered the child's head. She violently snatched the child out of the crib by one arm several times, swinging at the baby as if she was slapping her and placing pillows over the baby's face. There were a number of times she walked off camera with the baby, and we can only assume what she may have done off camera. Investigators, along with the state's attorney's office, reviewed the case and determined that there was enough on that particular video to charge Miss Walden with first-degree murder.
Same day this story came out, another story came out. This story happened about 17 months ago, I think. You guys may remember it. We did a video on it. A couple guys were apparently, the headline says it was a dispute. Well, in Baltimore, I guess they settle their disputes by lighting people on fire. Do you remember that? A couple guys got set on fire on the freeway. Well, a black guy set a couple white guys on, and anyway, the white guy died after 17 months. Oh, and by the way, if you've ever talked to anybody who works in a burn unit or a hospital, getting burned and taking 17 months to die, that's just about the worst thing you can do to somebody. If this idiot who writes for the Baltimore Sun wasn't so busy doing virtue signaling, virtue display, letting the entire world know that he's morally superior to the rest of you losers out there, he would know that black on white murder happens at a far greater rate than white on black murder. Lots of examples from all over the country. Again, recent ones. Why don't we head out to a limo driver out in Michigan?
While police are still looking for the suspects, the family is speaking out. They want people to know that this limo driver was a brother and a father.
We're all everyone is just numb and devastated that such a senseless act occurred.
That's how 44-year-old Devin Lowe's sister feels after losing her brother. Lowe's sister says Devin worked for a limo company out of Toledo and was taking 3 passengers to the Fox Theater for a show early Saturday morning.
They wanted to go out to the local pubs or the bars in Detroit, and somehow he stopped for gas or whatnot.
She says that's when her brother was robbed and killed by 2 men caught on camera. Devin leaves behind his 19-year-old daughter. His sister says he was a good father.
Hey, you might as well stay in Michigan. I think Kokomo's in Michigan. This black guy killed this white guy in a United Auto Worker parking lot. I don't think this picture of the white guy is necessarily from the Boy Scouts of America, if you catch my drift. But it was black on white murder, which happens way more than white on black murder.
We begin with breaking news. Exactly 3 weeks after the murder of this West suburban mother of 2, sources tell CBS 2 Hinsdale police are questioning a suspect in her killing. Good afternoon. I'm Erica Sargent.
And I'm Rob Johnson. Let's get right to CBS 2's Lauren Victory. She's live at the Hinsdale Police Department for us this afternoon. Lauren.
Rob and Erica, the chief of police tells me his detectives are in an operational part of their investigation. He knows Hinsdale residents want answers and expects to provide at least some soon. On the corner of Quincy Street and Town Place, a resolve for resolution in the first Hinsdale homicide in decades. Paper lanterns to memorialize the victim, Andrea Urban, adorn the neighborhood. So do the cops.
Right after all the heavy activity here, they stepped up their patrols.
Residents say investigators are making house or phone calls every few days. Urban died 3 weeks ago from blunt force trauma injuries. In the time since, an unnamed neighbor tells us the block's been questioned about a man in a safety vest. Detectives also seized surveillance video from this gas station downtown. That's according to an employee there. And Hinsdale's chief says a confidential law enforcement bulletin was leaked, resulting in the publication of a person of interest description in the online news site Patch. He promises CBS 2 something should be announced in the next 24 hours. Until then,
a lot of speculation all over the map, and it'd be nice to come down to something that, well, okay, this is it, and we can go through the legal process and move on.
Let's head down to Charlotte for some nasty business with an Uber driver. And how about this 69-year-old woman killed by a couple of fellas in a apparently very violent and traumatic way?
Breaking news now on a story that has quickly climbed to the top of our ABC 13 News app. Capital murder charges in the shocking death of a 69-year-old woman. 19-year-old Darren Matthews is being charged with the murder of Linda Terry. Just yesterday, the Harris County Sheriff's Office pleaded for any information about who was responsible for her death. Terry was found dead inside her home on Foxhaven Drive in North Harris County on May 20th.
People who work for papers like the Baltimore Sun, they might not be able to report worth a damn, but here's what they do have world-class skills in: excuses, loopholes. So on the Al Franken and Congressman thing, they'll say, well, Colin, that's a lot different because he wasn't attacking a reporter. Yeah, okay, right. And Colin, you don't have any proof that those other cases of black on white murder were racially motivated. No, do you, Colin? No, here's what we have. We have patterns. And patterns are more important than your little fairy tales of something called racially motivated proof, which really doesn't exist in the real world. Because in the real world, that would require us to read minds. Outside of Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, nobody in this planet can do that. But what we do know is it's so wildly out of proportion, and we do know when a black person kills a white person, they're not going to leave a note saying down with hunky, hunky suck, kill all the white people. That's very rare. But we do know because it's so wildly out of proportion, this pattern has significance. I mean, what if we flipped it? What if we flipped it instead of saying, well, is that racially motivated? No, okay, you tell me. Is it a coincidence? Is it random? Of course it's not a coincidence. Of course it's not random. The pattern has meaning. The pattern has significance. That reporters at major papers, at TV stations all across the country, they all know the drill. They want to keep their job. If they want to go up the ladder, they better know how to be in denial, deceit, and delusion about that. And then they practice it every day. At some point, they're going to figure out they're not only hurting the people they're supposed to be informing, they're also hurting their own newspaper and news outlet, because people are just not going to be attracted to a place that they know is not giving them the full story. Even if that means making a few black kids angry.